cruel husband sold his virgin bride to a billionaire on their first night, but he didn't touch her without her permission. Hi, my beautiful family, how are you? I hope your hearts are filled with love and joy today. Let's take a moment for a short but powerful prayer for our Mr. Peter family. May love embrace you, pure and bright. May joy surround you day and night. May dreams come true. May hearts stay strong in this family where we all belong. Now, my heart is overflowing with happiness because I have two beautiful pieces of news to share. First, my precious daughter has been discharged from the hospital. She is safe, she is fine, and I cannot thank you enough for your prayers, love, and support. You are my family, and I felt your love lifting us through this time. Second, our beautiful family member, Oprah Zuri, did something truly incredible. She found the courage to propose to the man she has loved since childhood. And guess what? He said yes. She shared with me how my stories gave her the strength to believe in love and take this brave step. This is what our family is about, spreading love, inspiring hearts, and making dreams come true. Let's all shower her with love and congratulations. And now tell me, my beautiful family, how did you feel about the last story? Did it touch your heart? Did it make you believe in love even more? Your happiness is my greatest reward. Let's begin with love. The golden light of sunset filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Golden Crown Hotel's bridal suite, casting long shadows across the plush cream carpet. Serenity Williams stood before the full-length mirror, her fingers tracing the delicate lace pattern of her wedding dress. The ivory fabric caught the dying sunlight, making the tiny crystals sewn into the bodice sparkle like morning dew. At 24, she had never felt more beautiful, more hopeful, or more in love than on this day, her wedding day. The ceremony had been everything she'd dreamed of since she was a little girl growing up in Atlanta's historic district. The church's stained glass windows had painted rainbows across the aisle as she walked toward Ronan Pierce, her heart swelling with each step. His dark eyes had locked onto hers with such intensity that she'd nearly forgotten to breathe. When he'd slipped the diamond-studded wedding band onto her finger, his hands had been steady, confident, just like everything else about him. Now, in the quiet of their bridal suite, Serenity's mind wandered back to the whirlwind romance that had led to this moment. 6 months ago, she'd been working as a kindergarten teacher, living a simple but content life. Then, Ronan had walked into her favorite coffee shop, all sharp suits and charming smiles. He'd asked about the book she was reading, Pride and Prejudice, for the 100th time, and somehow turned a casual conversation into a dinner invitation. Serenity smiled at her reflection, remembering how her best friend Maya had teased her about finding her own Mr. Darcy. Ronan certainly seemed to fit the part with his successful real estate business, impeccable manners, and the way he'd pursued her with single-minded determination. He'd swept her off her feet with surprise gifts, spontaneous weekend getaways, and declarations of love that made her feel like the only woman in the world. The proposal had come just 3 months into their relationship. Some had said it was too soon. Her mother especially had voiced concerns about the rush, but Ronan had been persuasive. "When you know," he'd said, down on one knee in the middle of the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, surrounded by blooming roses. Life is too short to waste time when you've found your soulmate. The ring he'd presented had been stunning, a 3-carat diamond that caught every ray of light. A knock at the door pulled Serenity from her reverie. "Come in," she called, expecting to see her new husband. Instead, one of the hotel staff entered with a bottle of champagne and 2 crystal flutes. "Compliments of Mr. Pierce, madam," the young man said, placing the items on a side table. "He asked me to inform you that he needed to step out briefly to handle some business matters. He said he won't be long." Serenity's smile faltered slightly. Business matters? On their wedding night? But she quickly pushed the doubt aside. This was Ronan. Ambitious, hard-working Ronan, who had built his real estate empire through dedication and seizing every opportunity. Surely whatever required his attention was important. "Thank you," she said, tipping the staff member generously. After he left, she walked to the window, gazing down at the glittering Atlanta skyline. The city lights were starting to twinkle as darkness crept across the sky, and traffic moved in endless streams far below. Somewhere down there, her new husband was handling whatever business couldn't wait until tomorrow. The champagne beckoned, but Serenity decided to wait. She wanted to share their first toast as husband and wife together. Instead, she busied herself with removing the countless pins that held her elaborate updo in place. Dark curls fell one by one around her shoulders, and she shook them out with relief. The wedding preparation had started before dawn, and her scalp was tender from hours of styling. As she worked on her hair, her mind drifted to the ceremony again. Ronan had been acting slightly strange all morning, more nervous than she'd expected from someone usually so composed. At the time, she'd attributed it to normal wedding jitters. Now, with him mysteriously absent on their wedding night, something didn't feel quite right. Her phone buzzed with incoming messages, congratulations from friends and family, well wishes for their new life together. One message from her mother stood out. "Remember, sweetheart, you can always come home if you need to." Serenity had been mildly annoyed when she first read it during the reception, but now the words sent an inexplicable chill down her spine. The minutes ticked by on the ornate clock, mounted above the fireplace. 1 hour passed, then another. Serenity had changed out of her wedding dress into the special lingerie she'd bought for this night, then covered it with a silk robe when Ronan still hadn't returned. She'd tried calling him twice, but both calls went straight to voicemail. His message greeting, smooth and professional, offered no comfort. Out in the hallway, she could hear other hotel guests coming and going, their muffled voices and footsteps a reminder that life was continuing normally just beyond these walls. But inside the bridal suite, time seemed to have stopped. The champagne sat untouched, tiny bubbles still rising hopefully in the bottle. The massive, king-sized bed, turned down by housekeeping with rose petals scattered across the crisp white sheets, remained undisturbed. At 11:30, another knock came at the door. Serenity's heart leaped, but when she opened it, instead of her husband, she found an older man in a business suit. His grey hair was immaculately styled, and his eyes held a mixture of sympathy and something else she couldn't quite read. "Mrs. Pierce?" he asked. Though it was clearly a formality, he knew exactly who she was. "My name is Harold Matthews. I'm an associate of your husband. May I come in? There's something we need to discuss." Serenity hesitated, one hand clutching her robe tighter around herself. Every instinct told her not to let this stranger into her room, but concern for Ronan overrode her caution. "Is something wrong? Has something happened to Ronan?" Matthew's expression remained carefully neutral as he stepped into the suite. "Your husband is fine, Mrs. Pierce. He asked me to deliver this to you." He reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. With trembling fingers, Serenity took it. Inside, she found a single sheet of hotel stationery with Ronan's distinctive handwriting. "My dearest Serenity, by the time you read this, everything will have been arranged. Mr. Matthews will explain the details. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. It's better this way. Ronan." The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. "I don't understand," she whispered, looking up at Matthews. "What's going on? What needs to be arranged?" "Mrs. Pierce, Serenity," Matthews began, his voice professionally detached. "Your husband has entered into an agreement with my employer. All the paperwork has been finalized, and the funds have been transferred. $50,000, as agreed." The room began to spin. Serenity grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. "Funds? Agreement? What are you talking about?" Before Matthews could respond, the door opened again. This time, a tall man with dark hair and penetrating blue eyes entered the suite. He wore an impeccably tailored black suit that probably cost more than Serenity's entire wedding. Unlike Matthews, his expression held no pretense of sympathy. "Mr. Livingston," Matthews acknowledged with a slight bow of his head, "everything is in order." Serenity looked between the two men, her mind refusing to process what was happening. But as Liam Livingston's eyes met hers, the horrible truth began to dawn. Her new husband, the man she'd pledged her life to just hours ago, had sold her. Like property, like a thing. The champagne glasses on the table caught the light, mocking her with their empty promise of celebration. Outside, the Atlanta skyline continued to sparkle, indifferent to the moment her world shattered into a million glittering pieces. And somewhere in that vast city, Ronan Pierce was walking away with $50,000 in exchange for his bride. Serenity's knees finally gave out, and she sank into the chair behind her. A sob rose in her throat, but she forced it down. She wouldn't cry. Not yet. Not in front of these men, who had treated her life like a business transaction. As if reading her thoughts, Liam Livingston stepped forward. His movement was careful, deliberate, like someone approaching a wounded animal. When he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle, a stark contrast to his commanding presence. "Miss Williams," he said, pointedly using her maiden name, "what's happening right now is unforgivable. But I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because everything is not what it seems." Through the haze of shock and betrayal, Serenity looked up at him. In his eyes, she saw something unexpected, not the cold calculation of a buyer, but a fierce determination that hinted at deeper currents beneath the surface. As the clock struck midnight, marking the end of her wedding day and the beginning of an uncertain future, Serenity Williams discovered that her story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Savior. 12 hours before entering the bridal suite, Liam Livingston sat in his penthouse office at the top of the Living Tech Tower, his attention fixed on the surveillance footage playing across multiple screens. The elegant wedding ceremony unfolding before him should have been a celebration of love. Instead, it was evidence of humanity's darkest impulses. The camera zoomed in on Ronan Pierce's face as he recited his vows. To the unsuspecting crowd, he appeared every inch the devoted groom, handsome, charming, and utterly focused on his bride. But Liam saw what others missed, the slight tension around Pierce's eyes, the way his left hand occasionally twitched toward his pocket, where his phone continuously buzzed with messages from potential buyers. "Play it again," Liam commanded, his voice tight with controlled anger. His security chief, Marcus Chen, nodded and rewound the footage. They'd been monitoring Pierce for weeks, ever since their algorithms had flagged suspicious patterns in his online activity. The speed of his courtship with Serenity Williams had raised the first red flag. The rushed wedding plans had triggered several more. "Sir," Marcus began, pulling up another window on his tablet, "we've intercepted more communications. Pierce has been negotiating with at least 3 different buyers." He hesitated before adding, "The amounts being discussed are significant. The highest bid so far is $75,000. Liam's hands clenched into fists beneath his mahogany desk. 7 years had passed since his sister Emma's disappearance, but moments like this brought the pain rushing back with devastating clarity. She too had fallen victim to a charming man with a carefully crafted facade. By the time Liam had uncovered the truth, Emma had vanished into the shadowy world of human trafficking, leaving behind nothing but a hastily scrawled note and a lifetime of guilt. Rising from his chair, Liam walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta. The city sprawled beneath him, a maze of streets and buildings where countless stories of love and betrayal played out daily. Somewhere down there, his sister might still be alive. That hope, however slim, had driven him to build not just his technology empire, but a vast underground network dedicated to preventing others from sharing Emma's fate. "What do we know about the bride?" he asked, though he'd already memorized every detail in her file. Sometimes speaking the facts aloud helped him see patterns he might have missed. Marcus pulled up Serenity's profile. Serenity Williams, 24, kindergarten teacher at Riverside Elementary. No living father. He died in a car accident when she was 12. Mother works as a nurse at Atlanta General. One younger sister in college. No criminal record, clean financial history. By all accounts, she's exactly what she appears to be, an innocent victim. The word innocent echoed in Liam's mind. Emma had been innocent too, just 19, fresh out of high school, with dreams of becoming a dancer. He'd been too busy building his company to see the danger signs until it was too late. Never again, he'd promised himself. Never another Emma. What about Pierce's network? Liam turned back to his desk, studying the complex web of connections displayed on one of his screens. "We've identified at least 15 other cases with similar patterns over the past 2 years, Marcus reported. Quick courtships, lavish weddings, brides who disappear shortly after. Pierce appears to be a mid-level operator, working for a larger organization we haven't yet been able to penetrate." Liam nodded slowly, pieces falling into place. "And the buyers he's negotiating with? 2 are known traffickers we've encountered before. The third dot." Marcus pulled up another file. "The third is new, goes by the name Matthews, claims to represent a wealthy private collector." A muscle twitched in Liam's jaw. Collector, the euphemism made his skin crawl. He'd encountered their type before, wealthy predators who viewed people as commodities to be bought and sold. Some kept their victims in gilded cages, others traded them like pieces of art. All of them deserved to rot in prison. "Sir," Marcus interrupted his dark thoughts. "Pierce just confirmed the sale to Matthews. 50,000 cash transfer. The exchange is scheduled for tonight at the Golden Crown Hotel." Liam's mind raced through scenarios, calculating risks and possibilities. They could alert the authorities, but an official investigation would take time they didn't have. Pierce might spook and disappear, taking Serenity with him. No, they needed something immediate, something unexpected. "Get me everything we have on Matthews," he ordered, "and contact our legal team. I want documents drawn up, ironclad ones that will hold up in court when this is over." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You're going to intercept the sale?" "No." Liam's voice was steel. "I'm going to make one." The next hours passed in a blur of preparation. While Serenity exchanged vows with her betrayer, Liam's team worked to create an alternative scenario. Bank transfers were arranged, identities verified, contingencies planned. By sunset, Harold Matthews, the real one, had been persuaded to step aside, convinced by a combination of financial incentives and subtle threats of exposure. In his private bathroom, Liam changed into a fresh suit, black, perfectly tailored, projecting the power and wealth expected of a man in his position. The face that stared back at him from the mirror was composed, but his eyes burned with purpose. He would not fail, not this time. "The tracking devices are in place," Marcus reported as they rode the elevator down to the waiting car. "If Pierce tries to double-cross us or alert his organization, we'll know." "And the safe house?" "Ready. Ms. Martinez has arranged everything according to protocol." Bella Martinez. Liam allowed himself a moment of gratitude for his childhood friend, who now ran his charitable foundation. She'd been there the night Emma disappeared, had helped him channel his grief and rage into something constructive. Now she oversaw the network of safe houses and support services for trafficking survivors, turning victims into victors. The drive to the Golden Crown Hotel seemed to take both an eternity and no time at all. As his car glided through Atlanta's evening traffic, Liam reviewed the intelligence one final time. Pierce's pattern was clear. He specialized in targeting independent, educated women with small social circles, women whose disappearances would raise concerns but not immediate alarms, women like his sister. "Sir," his driver announced, pulling up to the hotel's private entrance. "We're here." Liam checked his watch, right on schedule. He knew Pierce would already be gone, $50,000 richer, and probably congratulating himself on another successful transaction. The thought made his stomach turn. In the lobby, Matthews, now working under Liam's authority, waited with the envelope containing Pierce's message to his bride. The older man's face was grave. "She's upstairs, sir. Are you sure about this approach? It seems cruel." "Sometimes," Liam replied, his voice low and certain, "you have to let someone experience the depths of betrayal before you can truly help them." He knew this truth firsthand. The night Emma vanished had broken him, but it had also forged him into someone capable of preventing others from sharing her fate. The elevator ride to the bridal suite gave him time to settle into his role. He couldn't approach this as Liam Livingston, the grieving brother on a mission of redemption. He needed to be Liam Livingston, the powerful CEO whose resources and influence could offer real protection. The distinction was crucial. As he stepped into the suite and saw Serenity Williams for the first time in person, Liam felt an unexpected surge of emotion. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. There was a strength in her bearing, even in the midst of her world shattering, that reminded him painfully of Emma. The way she fought back tears, refusing to break down completely in front of strangers. The subtle lift of her chin, defiant despite her fear. When their eyes met, Liam saw the moment understanding dawned, the horrible realization of what her new husband had done. He watched her sink into the chair, saw the battle between shock and dignity play out across her face. And in that moment, his mission crystallized with renewed clarity. "Ms. Williams," he said, deliberately using her maiden name, infusing his voice with a gentleness that surprised even him. "What's happening right now is unforgivable, but I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because everything is not what it seems." The clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the suite. As Serenity looked up at him, tears finally spilling onto her cheeks, Liam made a silent vow. He couldn't change what had happened to Emma, couldn't undo the years of searching, the sleepless nights wondering if she was alive or dead, but he could change this story, could ensure that at least one woman meant for darkness found her way to light instead. Outside the hotel windows, Atlanta continued its nighttime dance of lights and shadows. But in that room, in that moment, something shifted. A bridge formed between two wounded souls, one broken by betrayal, the other driven by loss. Neither knew it yet, but their paths, so different until now, were about to become inextricably entwined in ways that would change both their lives forever. As Liam prepared to explain his true purpose, he silently thanked whatever twist of fate had allowed him to intercept this transaction. Sometimes, salvation wore unexpected faces. Sometimes the darkest moments held seeds of hope. And sometimes, just sometimes, what began as a nightmare could transform into something entirely different, something like redemption. Chapter 3. The Wedding Night. Time seemed to freeze in the bridal suite as Serenity stared at the man who had just purchased her like property. The silk of her robe suddenly felt like chains against her skin, and the room's luxurious furnishings morphed into a gilded cage. Her wedding ring, the symbol of love and commitment that had filled her with joy mere hours ago, now burned against her finger like a brand of shame. Liam Livingston maintained his distance, carefully positioning himself near the door while Matthews quietly excused himself from the suite. The soft click of the door closing echoed like a gunshot in the tense silence. Through the windows, the Atlanta skyline continued its dance of lights, oblivious to the drama unfolding in the room. "Don't be afraid," Liam said, his voice surprisingly gentle for a man of his imposing presence. He moved slowly to one of the armchairs positioned farthest from where Serenity sat, his movements deliberately non-threatening. "I know you have no reason to trust me or believe anything I say right now, but I promise you that you're safe." Serenity's laugh was bitter, tinged with hysteria. "Safe?" Her voice cracked on the word. "My husband, the man I married today, just sold me to a stranger for $50,000. How exactly am I safe?" The tears she'd been fighting finally spilled over, tracking mascara down her cheeks in dark rivers. Her perfectly styled hair, already loosened from its elaborate updo, fell around her face in a curtain of dark curls. She looked like a Renaissance painting of beautiful tragedy. "You're right," Liam acknowledged, his blue eyes intense with something that looked like understanding. "What Ronan Pierce did is unforgivable, but I'm not what you think I am. I'm not here to hurt you or to—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I'm not here to claim what he sold." Serenity's mind raced, trying to make sense of his words through the fog of shock and betrayal. She glanced at the door, calculating the distance, wondering if she could make it before he could stop her. As if reading her thoughts, Liam spoke again. "The door isn't locked. You can leave any time you want. There are no guards in the hallway, no one watching. But before you make that choice, I'm asking you to listen. Just listen. After that, whatever you decide to do, I'll respect your decision." Something in his tone made her hesitate. The man before her didn't match the monster her imagination had conjured when she realized what Ronan had done. His eyes held compassion instead of cruel intent, and he maintained a respectful distance that seemed at odds with someone who had just purchased a human being. "Why should I believe anything you say?" she demanded, gathering the shreds of her dignity around her like armor. "You just paid $50,000 for me. People don't do that out of kindness." Liam's expression darkened momentarily, a flash of pain crossing his features before he masked it. "7 years ago, my sister Emma disappeared. She was 19, beautiful, talented, and she fell victim to the same type of predator as your husband. By the time I figured out what was happening, she was gone." He paused, emotion making his voice rough. "I never found her." Serenity felt her breath catch. The raw pain in his voice couldn't be faked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I've spent the last 7 years building a network to prevent what happened to Emma from happening to others. When we discovered Pierce's plans for tonight, I arranged to intercept the sale, because if I hadn't, someone else would have bought you. Someone who wouldn't have given you a choice." The room spun slightly as Serenity processed his words. She gripped the arms of her chair, anchoring herself to something solid as her world continued to tilt on its axis. "You knew? Before the wedding? You knew what he was planning?" Liam nodded gravely. "We've been tracking him for weeks. He's part of a larger network that specializes in this type of operation, targeting independent women, orchestrating whirlwind romances, rushing to marriage, and then—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. Memories flooded Serenity's mind. The speed of Ronan's courtship, his insistence on a quick wedding, the way he'd smoothly deflected her mother's concerns. All the red flags she'd dismissed as romantic spontaneity now revealed themselves as calculated moves in a horrifying game. "Oh, God," she whispered, bile rising in her throat. "I'm going to be sick." She barely made it to the bathroom in time, emptying the contents of her stomach while bitter tears burned her eyes. Through the haze of nausea and shock, she was vaguely aware of water running, and then a cool, damp washcloth was being pressed into her hands. Liam had moved closer, but still maintained a respectful distance, standing in the bathroom doorway rather than entering. "Here," he said, offering a glass of water once she'd wiped her face. Small sips. The water helped clear her head slightly, washing away the acid taste of vomit and betrayal. When she could trust her legs again, she moved back to the main room, noticing how Liam immediately returned to his previous position by the door, giving her space. "What happens now?" she asked, hating how small her voice sounded. "That depends entirely on you," Liam replied. "I have a secure apartment building where I maintain several private suites for women in situations like yours. You'll have your own space, complete privacy and round-the-clock security. My foundation can provide counseling, legal assistance, whatever support you need. But it's your choice. If you prefer to go somewhere else, to family or friends, I'll ensure you have the resources to do so safely." Serenity's mind reeled at the options he presented. "And what do you want in return?" "Nothing." His response was immediate and firm. "The money I paid Pierce will be used as evidence when we bring him and his associates to justice. You don't owe me anything. Your life is your own." The sincerity in his voice made something crack inside her. Not the sharp break of betrayal she'd felt earlier, but a softer fracture like ice beginning to thaw. Still, years of teaching had taught her to look for the catch, the hidden agenda. "Why? Why would you do all this for a stranger?" Liam was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant as if seeing something or someone far away. "Because 7 years ago, no one was there to do it for Emma. Because every woman we save is a blow against the network that took my sister. And because sometimes the only way to fight darkness is to be the light you wish had been there when you needed it." Fresh tears filled Serenity's eyes, but these were different from the ones she'd shed earlier. These weren't tears of betrayal or fear, but of something else. Relief, perhaps, or the first fragile stirrings of hope. "I don't—" she started, then took a deep breath. "I don't know what to do. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about love, about trust, it's all been a lie. How do I even begin to move forward from this?" "You begin by surviving," Liam said quietly. "One moment at a time, and you don't have to do it alone unless you choose to." Outside, the first hints of dawn were beginning to lighten the sky, the stars fading as night surrendered to day. Serenity moved to the window, watching as the city began to wake. Somewhere out there, Ronan was probably counting his money, believing he'd successfully sold her into a nightmare. Instead, his betrayal had inadvertently led her to what might be salvation. "Your secure apartment," she said finally, her voice stronger than before. "Tell me more about it." Relief flickered across Liam's face, quickly masked by professional composure. "It's in a building I own, with state-of-the-art security systems and vetted staff. You'll meet Bella Martinez, my foundation director, in the morning. She'll help you get settled and explain everything in detail." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a keycard. "This is for the penthouse suite. It's yours for as long as you need it. The building has a private entrance, and my personal security team will ensure your safety. No one, not even me, will enter your space without your explicit permission." Serenity took the keycard, its weight in her hand somehow both terrifying and reassuring. "And if I change my mind, if I want to leave?" "Then you leave," Liam said simply. "No questions, no obligations. Like I said, your life is your own." She nodded slowly, reality settling around her like a heavy cloak. I need to change, to get out of this." She gestured to her wedding attire, the beautiful clothes that now felt like a costume from a horror show. "Of course. Take whatever time you need. I'll have my driver bring the car around to the..." A private entrance. When you're ready, Matthews will escort you down. Liam moved toward the door, then paused. Ms. Williams. Serenity. I know words mean little right now, but I truly am sorry for what was done to you. No one deserves such betrayal. As he reached for the door handle, Serenity found her voice one more time. Mr. Livingston? He turned back, his expression questioning. Thank you, she whispered, for not being what I feared when that door opened. A shadow of pain crossed his face, quickly replaced by determination. Get some rest, Ms. Williams. Tomorrow is a new day and you're stronger than you know. The door closed behind him with a soft click, leaving Serenity alone with her thoughts. She looked around the bridal suite, at the untouched champagne, the rose petals on the bed, all the romantic touches that now seemed like props in an elaborate deception. Then she looked at the keycard in her hand, her ticket to... what? Safety? Freedom? A chance to rebuild? Moving to the closet, she began to pack, carefully avoiding the wedding dress hanging there like a ghost of broken dreams. Each item she placed in her suitcase felt like both an ending and a beginning. When she finally changed out of her bridal lingerie into simple jeans and a sweater, it was like shedding a skin, emerging as someone new, someone who had stared into the abyss of betrayal and found an unexpected light in the darkness. Dawn was breaking in earnest now, painting the Atlanta skyline in shades of pink and gold. As Serenity took one last look around the room where her world had both ended and begun anew, she felt something stir inside her, not hope, not yet, but perhaps its predecessor, the will to survive, to fight, to reclaim her story from those who had tried to write its ending. She picked up her suitcase and walked to the door, leaving behind not just a room, but a life built on lies. Ahead lay uncertainty, fear, and a long journey of healing, but also perhaps truth. And sometimes that was enough to begin again. Chapter 4. Shattered Dreams. The penthouse suite at Livingston Towers was nothing like Serenity had imagined, gone were the gilded cages and oppressive luxury she'd feared. Instead, she found herself in a space that somehow managed to be both elegant and comforting. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Atlanta, but specially treated glass ensured privacy from the outside world. The decor was soft and understated. Cream-colored walls, plush furniture in soothing blues and greens, and artwork that spoke of peace rather than opulence. Dawn was breaking over the city as Matthews showed her around the space. The security system is state-of-the-art, he explained, demonstrating the control panel near the entrance. You can see anyone approaching your door before they enter, and no one, absolutely no one, can access this floor without your explicit authorization. Serenity nodded mechanically, taking in the information while feeling oddly detached from reality. Her wedding dress was still in its garment bag, propped against her suitcase like a ghost she couldn't quite exorcise. The diamonds on her left hand caught the morning light, sending prisms dancing across the walls in a mockery of celebration. The kitchen is fully stocked, Matthews continued, opening sleek cabinets to reveal everything from basic staples to gourmet ingredients. Ms. Martinez will arrive at 10. To help you settle in and discuss next steps. Would you like me to have the chef send up breakfast before then? The thought of food made her stomach turn. No, thank you, she managed. I need to be alone. Matthew's professional demeanor softened slightly. Of course. Remember, you have complete control over this space. The phone by the bed is a direct line to security if you need anything. He placed a tablet on the kitchen counter. This has additional information about the building's amenities and security features. Take your time reviewing it. After he left, Serenity stood motionless in the center of the living room, feeling like an actress who'd wandered onto the wrong stage. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warming her skin, but inside she felt frozen. The events of the past 12 hours played through her mind like a horror movie she couldn't stop watching. Moving on autopilot, she made her way to the master bathroom. It was spectacular, all marble and glass, with a freestanding tub that in other circumstances might have delighted her. But what caught her attention was the mirror, stretching wall to wall above double vanities. The woman who stared back at her was a stranger. Her carefully applied wedding makeup was smeared, dark streaks of mascara marking paths of tears down her cheeks. Her hair, which had been elegantly styled for the ceremony, hung in tangled waves around her face. But it was her eyes that stopped her. They held a haunted look she'd never seen before, as if the person she'd been yesterday had died and left behind only a shell. With trembling fingers, she began removing her jewelry. The delicate bracelet Ronan had given her on their 1-month anniversary clattered into the sink. The necklace she'd worn for the wedding, something borrowed from his mother, who'd hugged her and welcomed her to the family, followed. Each piece felt contaminated now, tainted by lies and betrayal. The wedding ring was last. It stuck slightly, as if reluctant to surrender its place, but finally slid free. Serenity held it up to the light, watching it sparkle. 3 carats of flawless diamonds set in platinum. A ring meant to impress, to show off, to mark her as property. With sudden violence, she flung it across the bathroom. It hit the wall with a satisfying ping before disappearing behind the freestanding tub. The action broke something inside her. Sobs tore from her throat as she sank to the floor, her back against the cool marble vanity. All the shock and numbness of the past hours gave way to raw pain. She cried for her shattered dreams, for her betrayed trust, for the woman she'd been yesterday who had believed in love and happy endings. Time lost meaning as grief racked her body. She cried until her throat was raw and her eyes burned, until the elegant bathroom floor was spotted with tears. When the storm finally passed, leaving her hollow and exhausted, sunlight was streaming through the bathroom's high window, creating rainbow patterns on the marble. On shaky legs, she made her way to the shower. The water pressure was perfect, the temperature exactly right, but she barely noticed. She scrubbed her skin until it was red, as if she could wash away the memory of Ronan's touches, his kisses, all the intimacies that had been part of his calculated deception. Clean but not cleansed, she wrapped herself in one of the impossibly soft robes hanging on the bathroom door. In the bedroom, she found her suitcase had been placed on a luggage rack, but she couldn't bear to open it. Those clothes belonged to another life, to a woman who had packed them with dreams of a honeymoon in her heart. Instead, she discovered the walk-in closet was fully stocked with new clothing in her size, everything from casual wear to elegant dresses, all with tags still attached. Under normal circumstances, she might have felt uncomfortable with such extravagance, but at that moment she was pathetically grateful for clothes untouched by her past. Choosing simple black yoga pants and a soft grey sweater, she tried to make herself presentable for the upcoming meeting with Bella Martinez. But as she attempted to untangle her hair, memories ambushed her again. "You have the most beautiful hair," Ronan had said on their first date, reaching across the restaurant table to touch a stray curl. "Like black silk." Had he been calculating even then, marking her as merchandise, planning how to package and sell her? The brush clattered to the vanity as nausea rolled through her again. She barely made it to the toilet before bringing up bile, her stomach long since empty of anything else. Afterward, she rinsed her mouth and stared at her reflection again. The stranger in the mirror looked even more lost now, pale and haunted. A gentle chime from the security system announced a visitor. The tablet Matthews had left showed a woman in the private elevator, elegant, professionally dressed with kind eyes and an air of quiet competence. Bella Martinez, right on schedule. Serenity's first instinct was to deny entry, to curl up in this safe space and shut out the world. But a small voice inside, the same voice that had helped her survive her father's death, that had pushed her through college, that had made her a good teacher, whispered that isolation wouldn't heal her. With trembling fingers, she pressed the button to grant access. As she waited for Bella to arrive, she caught her reflection one more time. The woman in the mirror was broken, yes, but not completely destroyed. Something in her eyes had changed, a tiny spark of determination beginning to glow in the darkness of betrayal. The gentle knock at the door made her jump despite expecting it. "Come in," she called, hating how weak her voice sounded. Bella Martinez entered like a breath of fresh air, carrying not pity, but a sense of purpose. "Good morning, Serenity," she said warmly. "I thought you might need these." She held up a paper bag that filled the air with the aroma of fresh coffee and warm pastries. Serenity's stomach clenched, but not entirely in rejection this time. Thank you. I haven't been able to eat." "Just small bites," Bella advised, moving to the kitchen with easy confidence. "Your body needs strength, even if your mind isn't ready for it yet." As Bella arranged coffee and croissants on the counter, Serenity found herself drawn to the woman's calm presence. There was something about her that felt safe. Perhaps it was the way she moved with purpose, but without intensity, or how she created space rather than trying to fill it. "Liam told me what happened," Bella said finally, sliding a small plate with half a croissant toward Serenity. "I want you to know that everything he said is true. You're safe here, and everything, absolutely everything, is your choice moving forward." The kindness in her voice threatened to unlock fresh tears, but Serenity fought them back. I don't know how to move forward. I don't even know who I am anymore. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about love, about myself, it was all based on lies." Bella's eyes filled with understanding. "The lies were his, not yours. Your capacity to love, to trust, to see the good in others, those are strengths, not weaknesses, even if someone twisted them for their own purposes." "How can you say that?" Serenity's voice cracked. "I was so stupid. There were signs. There must have been signs." "Stop," Bella said firmly but gently. "What happened to you is not your fault. Ronan Pierce is part of a sophisticated network that specializes in manipulating intelligent, independent women. They're experts at what they do. Your only crime was having an open heart." Serenity picked at the croissant, managing a small bite. It was perfectly flaky, but tasted like ash in her mouth. "What happens now?" "Whatever you want to happen," Bella replied. "We can arrange counseling. I have several excellent therapists who specialize in trauma and betrayal. We can discuss legal options if you want to press charges. We can help you communicate with your family or maintain privacy if you prefer. Everything moves at your pace." "And Liam?" Serenity asked, voicing the question that had been nagging at her. "What does he expect?" "Nothing." Bella's response was immediate and firm. "Liam's involvement ends wherever you want it to. His only concern is your safety and recovery." Something about the way Bella said his name made Serenity look up sharply. "You know him well?" A sad smile crossed Bella's face. "I was there the night his sister disappeared. I've watched him build this network, seen how every woman we couldn't save haunts him. But I've also seen how every woman we do save helps heal a piece of his own trauma." Serenity absorbed this information, adding it to the complex puzzle that was Liam Livingston. He said he never found her, his sister." "No," Bella confirmed quietly. "But he's never stopped looking. And in the meantime, he's dedicated his life to preventing other families from experiencing that pain." The sun had risen fully now, bathing the penthouse in warm light. Serenity found she'd eaten most of the half-croissant without realizing it. Her coffee, grown cold, reflected her face. Still pale, still haunted, but perhaps with the tiniest bit more strength than before. "I don't know how to trust again," she admitted, voicing her deepest fear. "Not just other people, but myself, my own judgment." "You don't have to figure that out today," Bella assured her. "Today, you just have to breathe, to survive. Everything else comes one step at a time." She reached into her bag and withdrew a business card. "This is my personal number. Day or night, if you need anything, even just someone to sit with you in silence, call me." Serenity took the card, running her fingers over the embossed letters. Bella Martinez, Director of Operations, Livingston Foundation. A lifeline disguised as a simple piece of cardstock. "Thank you," she whispered, meaning it for the first time since this nightmare began. Bella smiled, warm and genuine. "You're stronger than you know, Serenity. The fact that you're sitting here talking to me, eating even a little, that's strength. The rest will come." As they continued talking, making plans for the immediate future, Serenity felt something shift inside her. The pain wasn't less, the betrayal no less devastating, but somehow it felt more survivable, like a broken bone that finally begins to knit, or the first green shoot pushing through scorched earth. She was no longer the bright-eyed bride who had entered the Golden Crown Hotel's bridal suite. That woman had died sometime during the night, but perhaps, just perhaps, the woman emerging from those ashes would eventually be stronger. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. For now she had safety, she had support, she had choices, and sometimes that was enough to begin again. Chapter 5. The Truth Bearer. 2 weeks had passed since Serenity's world had shattered in the Golden Crown Hotel's bridal suite. The penthouse at Livingston Towers had become both sanctuary and prison, a safe haven she couldn't quite bring herself to leave. Each day followed a similar pattern: therapy sessions via secure video link, quiet meals she forced herself to eat, and long hours staring out at the Atlanta skyline, trying to piece together her broken sense of self. The ring she'd thrown behind the bathtub remained there, untouched. Sometimes, in the dead of night, she could swear she heard it calling to her, a siren song of memories she couldn't quite silence. But each morning, she left it where it lay, a small act of defiance against the life that had been stolen from her. Bella Martinez had become a constant presence, dropping by daily with fresh pastries and an unwavering sense of calm that somehow made existence more bearable. Today, she arrived just as the afternoon sun was painting golden patterns across the penthouse's hardwood floors. "I thought we might have coffee on the terrace," Bella suggested, setting down her usual paper bag of treats. "It's a beautiful day, and you've been inside for 2 weeks straight." Serenity's first instinct was to refuse. The terrace, while private and secure, felt too exposed, but something in Bella's gentle persistence made her nod. "Let me just—" She gestured vaguely at her appearance. She'd managed to shower that morning, but her hair was still damp, pulled back in a messy bun. "You're fine exactly as you are," Bella assured her, already moving to prepare coffee with the ease of familiarity. "Perfect weather for pumpkin spice lattes. I had Xavier make them fresh before I came up." The terrace was indeed beautiful, a private oasis 17 stories above the city. Carefully cultivated plants created natural privacy screens, and comfortable seating was arranged to maximize both the view and the sense of security. As they settled into plush chairs, the afternoon sun warm on their faces, Serenity felt something inside her relax slightly. "You're looking better," Bella observed, passing over a fragrant latte. "More present." Serenity wrapped her hands around the warm cup, anchoring herself in the sensation. "The nightmares are less frequent now. Dr. Chen says that's progress." "It is," Bella agreed. "Everything you're feeling, everything you're doing, it's all part of healing. There's no timeline, no right or wrong way to process trauma." Serenity took a small sip of her latte, letting the familiar flavors ground her in the present moment. I got another message from my mother this morning. She's worried. I haven't told her everything, just that the marriage ended badly, that I'm safe, that I need time. That's your right, Bella said firmly. You share your story when and if you're ready, with whoever you choose. A comfortable silence fell between them as they enjoyed their coffee. Below, Atlanta traffic moved in its endless patterns, cars and people going about their normal lives. Serenity wondered how many other stories of betrayal and survival were playing out in the city at this very moment. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally, voicing a question that had been building for days. "About Liam?" Bella's expression remained open, encouraging. "Of course. Why doesn't he?" Serenity struggled to find the right words. "He hasn't tried to see me, hasn't sent messages checking on me. Not that I want him to," she added quickly. "It's just, he spent $50,000 to save me, but he seems content to pretend I don't exist." A complex emotion crossed Bella's face, something between sadness and understanding. Liam believes in giving people absolute freedom to choose their own path. After what happened with Emma, his sister, Serenity supplied softly. "You were there." Bella nodded, her eyes distant with memory. "We all were. Liam, me, our whole friend group. Emma was the baby of our circle, full of life and dreams. She'd just gotten accepted to Juilliard for dance." She paused, taking a steadying breath. "The man who took her, he was like Ronan, charming, sophisticated, seemingly perfect." Serenity felt a chill despite the warm sun. "What happened?" "It started with little things. He convinced Emma to defer her Juilliard acceptance, said they could go to New York together after they got married. He isolated her gradually, always with perfectly reasonable explanations. By the time we realized something was wrong, she was gone," Serenity whispered. The night she disappeared, Liam had finally gathered enough evidence to confront her fiancé. He went to their apartment, but it was empty. Just a note from Emma saying she was sorry, that she loved us, that she had to go. Bella's hand trembled slightly as she set down her coffee cup. We later learned her fiancé was part of an international trafficking ring. They specialized in young artists, dancers, musicians, anyone with talent they could exploit. Horror crawled up Serenity's spine. "Did they ever find her?" "No." The word hung heavy in the air. Liam spent every resource he had searching. He hired private investigators, traveled to every lead, built a network of contacts in law enforcement and underground circles. Eventually, he realized that while he couldn't change what happened to Emma, he could prevent it from happening to others. "The foundation," Serenity said, pieces clicking into place. "Yes, but it's more than that. The foundation is just the public face. Behind the scenes, Liam has created an entire infrastructure dedicated to identifying and stopping traffickers before they can strike. The technology division of his company develops sophisticated algorithms to detect patterns. The security team infiltrates criminal networks. The legal team works to strengthen laws and prosecution." Serenity absorbed this information, adding new layers to her understanding of the man who had saved her. "And the penthouse suites? There are others?" "In every city where we operate," Bella confirmed, "safe spaces for women to heal, to rebuild, to reclaim their autonomy. Every suite is different, designed to feel like a home rather than a hotel or shelter. And every woman who stays in them has complete control over their environment and their choices." "That's why he stays away," Serenity realized. "He doesn't want anyone to feel obligated or pressured." "Exactly." Bella's smile held pride and sadness in equal measure. "The night we lost Emma, something in Liam broke, but something else was forged. A determination that no other woman would suffer that fate if he could prevent it. Every woman we save, every trafficker we stop, it's a small piece of healing for him too. The sun had shifted while they talked, casting longer shadows across the terrace. Serenity found she'd finished her latte without realizing it. The familiar ritual of coffee and conversation creating a pocket of normalcy in her upended world. The night of, that night, she began hesitantly. When he came to the suite instead of what Ronan had planned. He could have sent someone else, could have had security handle everything. Why did he come himself? Bella was quiet for a long moment, choosing her words carefully. Liam carries the weight of every woman we couldn't save, but he also believes in being present for the ones we can. He thinks they deserve to see that their rescuer is human, that they're being saved by someone who understands the cost of betrayal firsthand. He was so. Serenity searched for the right word, gentle, careful. Even though I was terrified and angry and probably saying horrible things, he just stayed calm and gave me space. He's learned over the years exactly what women in that situation need most: respect, distance, and the power to make their own choices. Bella leaned forward slightly. Which is why he'll continue to stay away, unless you specifically request otherwise. Your healing, your journey, it belongs to you, not to him. Something warm and unexpected bloomed in Serenity's chest, not gratitude exactly, but perhaps its precursor. An acknowledgement that in the midst of the worst betrayal imaginable, she had encountered something rare and precious, genuine respect for her autonomy. "Tell me more," she said softly. "About Emma, about the foundation, about how all this started." As the afternoon deepened into evening, Bella shared the full story. She told of the frantic weeks after Emma's disappearance, of Liam's transformation from successful tech entrepreneur to crusader against human trafficking. She spoke of the first safe house they'd established, the first woman they'd saved, the gradual building of a network that now spanned continents. "The hardest part for Liam," Bella explained, "is knowing we can't save everyone. For every woman like you, there are others we don't reach in time. It drives him to keep pushing, keep expanding our capabilities." "Does he—" Serenity hesitated. "Does he ever talk about Emma? About what he thinks happened to her?" Pain flickered across Bella's face. "He believes she's still alive. There have been possible sightings over the years, rumors of a dancer matching her description in various parts of the world, but nothing concrete. The not knowing. I think that's what haunts him most." The sun was setting now, painting the Atlanta skyline in shades of purple and gold. Serenity found herself seeing the city differently, not just as a backdrop to her own trauma, but as a landscape where countless stories of loss and redemption played out daily. "Thank you," she said finally, "for telling me all this, for helping me understand." Bella reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "Understanding is part of healing. And you're stronger than you know, Serenity. The fact that you're here asking questions, engaging with difficult truths, that's courage." As they cleared away their coffee cups and moved back inside, Serenity felt something shift inside her. The pain wasn't less, the betrayal no less devastating, but somehow knowing she was part of a larger story, part of a mission to prevent others from suffering the same fate, gave her a sense of purpose she'd been lacking. Later that night, standing at her bedroom window, she watched the city lights twinkle like earthbound stars. Somewhere out there, Liam Livingston was probably working late, driven by the ghost of his sister and the commitment to save others from her fate. Somewhere out there, other women were being manipulated and betrayed by men like Ronan. And somewhere out there, Emma's story was still unfolding, unknown but not forgotten. For the first time since her world had shattered, Serenity felt the stirring of something beyond survival, a desire to be part of the solution, to turn her trauma into purpose. She wasn't ready yet, might not be ready for weeks or months, but the seed had been planted. And sometimes that was enough to start writing a new chapter. Chapter 6. Uncovering Truth. The Livingston Foundation's offices occupied 3 floors of a sleek building in downtown Atlanta, its glass and steel exterior reflecting the autumn sunlight. 1 month after her wedding night, Serenity found herself standing in the lobby, her heart pounding as she contemplated this first venture outside the safety of her penthouse sanctuary. Bella had suggested the visit casually over coffee the previous day. "Sometimes," she'd said, "seeing the bigger picture helps put our own pain in perspective." Now, watching employees stream in and out of the secure elevator banks, Serenity wondered if she was ready for whatever truths awaited her. "Ms. Williams?" A security guard approached with a welcoming smile. "Ms. Martinez is expecting you, if you'll follow me." The executive floor was a study in understated elegance, warm woods, soft lighting, and walls lined with powerful photographs. Serenity paused before one that showed a young woman, her face in profile, staring out a window. Something about the image captured both despair and hope in a single frame. "That's from our first success story," Bella said, appearing silently beside her. "Maria Santos. She was trafficked from Brazil, promised a modeling career. We helped her escape and build a new life. Now, she's one of our most effective counselors." Serenity studied the photograph more closely. "When was this taken?" "6 years ago, just after we got her out. Liam took it himself. He used to do photography before." Bella trailed off, but Serenity understood. Before Emma. "Come," Bella continued, leading the way down the corridor. "There's something I want to show you." They passed through a series of secure doors, each requiring Bella's fingerprint and retinal scan, before entering what appeared to be a command center. Multiple screens covered the walls, displaying maps, data streams, and surveillance footage. At various workstations, analysts monitored information with focused intensity. "This is the heart of our operation," Bella explained. "Every piece of data, every pattern, every potential threat is analyzed here. This is how we knew about Ronan's plans that night." Serenity's throat tightened at the mention of his name. "You were watching him. We'd been tracking his activities for months." Bella moved to a workstation and pulled up a series of files. "Look at this." The screen filled with photographs, text messages, and financial records. Serenity saw herself in many of the images, leaving her apartment, teaching at school, having coffee with Ronan. Each moment she'd thought private had been documented, analyzed for threats. "I should feel violated," she whispered. "But instead, I feel protected," Bella finished gently. "Because unlike Ronan's surveillance, which was meant to exploit, ours was meant to protect." Moving through the command center, Bella explained how the Foundation's technology worked. Advanced algorithms monitored social media, financial transactions, and communication patterns for red flags. Artificial intelligence systems analyze behavioral patterns that might indicate trafficking activities. A global network of informants provided ground-level intelligence. "But the real breakthrough came from Emma," Bella said, leading Serenity into a quieter room dominated by a large touch screen. After she disappeared, Liam became obsessed with understanding the psychology of trafficking operations. He studied hundreds of cases, looking for patterns. With a few taps, Bella brought up a complex diagram. This is what he discovered. Traffickers like Ronan follow specific emotional manipulation patterns. They target women with particular psychological profiles, independent, successful, but with some form of emotional vulnerability. They study their victims, crafting personas designed to appeal to specific desires and needs. Serenity felt her chest constrict as she recognized elements of her own story in the diagram. The whirlwind romance is a common tactic, Bella confirmed. They create a sense of destiny, of meant to be, while moving quickly to prevent their targets from examining the relationship too closely. The lavish gifts, the constant attention, the rush to marriage, it's all carefully orchestrated. Moving to a wall of filing cabinets, Bella withdrew a thick folder. This is Ronan's file. Everything we knew before that night. Everything we've learned since. Would you like to see it? Serenity's hands trembled as she took the folder. Inside, she found photographs of other women, some smiling in wedding dresses, others captured in moments of ordinary life. These are his previous targets, Bella said quietly. Some we managed to save, others. She left the sentence unfinished, but her meaning was clear. As Serenity read through the file, a pattern emerged. Each woman had been carefully chosen, methodically pursued, and quickly married. Some had disappeared without trace, while others had been sold to wealthy buyers around the world. The documentation was clinical, thorough, and utterly heartbreaking. Why? Serenity had to pause, gathering her courage. Why did he choose me? Bella's expression softened with compassion. Your background made you an ideal target. A kindergarten teacher, caring, nurturing, good with children. A father who died young, leaving an emotional void. Success in your career, but loneliness in your personal life. They study these factors, crafting their approach accordingly. Moving to a window overlooking the city, Serenity tried to process this information. The sun had risen fully now, casting long shadows across the cityscape below. How does Liam handle it, knowing all this darkness exists in the world? Come with me, Bella said instead of answering directly. She led Serenity through another series of secure doors into what appeared to be a private office. Unlike the modern technology center they'd left behind, this space felt personal, almost sacred. The walls were covered with photographs, hundreds of them, arranged in a flowing pattern. Women of all ages and backgrounds, each captured in moments of triumph or peace. Some held diplomas, others cradled babies. Some smiled directly at the camera, while others gazed thoughtfully into the distance. These are our successes, Bella explained softly. Every woman we've helped save. Every life redirected from darkness to light. Liam keeps them here to remind himself why we do this work. Serenity moved closer to the photographs, drawn to their quiet power. There are so many. And yet never enough, came a deep voice from behind them. Serenity turned to find Liam Livingston standing in the doorway. He looked exactly as she remembered from that night, tall, commanding, but with that same careful distance in his bearing. His eyes met hers briefly before sliding away, respecting her space even in his own office. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to intrude. I can come back." "No," Serenity found herself saying. "Please, stay." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps, or hope quickly masked. He entered the office but remained near the door, maintaining a respectful distance that spoke volumes about his understanding of trauma. "Ms. Williams," he acknowledged formally, "I trust Bella has been showing you our operation." "Please," she said softly, "call me Serenity." A small step, but somehow significant. Liam nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "How are you finding the penthouse? Is there anything you need?" "It's perfect," she assured him. "Everything is perfect. She gestured to the wall of photographs. "I needed to understand, to see the bigger picture." "Of course." He moved to stand before the photographs, his posture both proud and haunted. Each one represents not just a life saved, but a future restored. The woman on the left there, she's now a human rights lawyer. The one beside her runs a support group for survivors. The one in the blue dress, she just opened her own business. "And Emma?" Serenity asked gently. "Is she here?" Pain flashed across Liam's face before he could mask it. Number. "But she's present in every face on this wall, in every woman we save, every trafficker we stop, every future we help reclaim." Bella quietly excused herself, leaving them alone with the weight of unspoken words and shared understanding. Serenity found herself studying Liam's profile, seeing him clearly for the first time, not as her rescuer or her buyer, but as a man carrying both tremendous power and devastating pain. "Thank you," she said finally, "not just for saving me, but for giving me time, space, choice." "Your choices were stolen from you once," he replied, still not looking directly at her. "I won't be party to taking them again." Sunlight streamed through the office windows, catching the edges of the photographs and making them glow like beacons. Serenity moved closer to the wall, drawn to one image in particular, a woman standing at a podium, her posture radiating strength. "Tell me about her," she requested. For the next hour, Liam shared stories behind the photographs. Each tale was a journey from darkness to light, from victimhood to victory. He spoke with quiet passion, his deep voice painting pictures of resilience and rebirth. As they talked, something shifted in the air between them. The careful distance remained, but it felt less like a barrier and more like a bridge, one that could be crossed when both were ready. Serenity found herself seeing beyond her initial impression of him as either savior or buyer. Here was a man who had transformed personal tragedy into a mission of hope, who wielded his power not to control, but to liberate. When Bella finally returned to remind them of pending appointments, Serenity realized she felt different. The pain wasn't gone, the trauma not erased, but something had changed. Understanding, she realized, was its own form of healing. "Will you come back?" Liam asked as she prepared to leave. "There's so much more to show you if you're interested." Serenity thought of the command center with its complex web of protection, of the wall of success stories, of the quiet strength in this man who had saved her without demanding anything in return. "Yes," she said simply. "I'd like that." As she left the Foundation's offices that afternoon, the autumn sun warm on her face, Serenity felt the first stirrings of something she hadn't dared to feel since her wedding night. Not quite hope, but perhaps its beginning. Understanding the truth behind her rescue hadn't erased her pain, but it had given it context, purpose, meaning. Sometimes, she was learning, truth was the first step toward healing. Chapter 7. Freedom's Choice. The 6-month mark arrived with the first snow of winter. Serenity stood at her penthouse windows, watching white flakes dance against the darkening sky of Atlanta. The city looked different under its gentle blanket of white, softer somehow, as if nature herself was trying to heal urban wounds. Her reflection in the window showed a woman changed by time and truth. The haunted look in her eyes had been replaced by something steadier, more resolute. Regular sessions with Dr. Chen had helped her process her trauma, while volunteer work at the Foundation had given her days purpose. She wasn't healed, might never be completely healed, but she was stronger. The message from Liam had arrived that morning, hand-delivered by Bella. "Would you join me in my office at 7 p.m? There's something we need to discuss." Now, as evening settled over the snow-dusted city, Serenity felt an inexplicable nervousness. Over the past months, she'd seen Liam occasionally at the Foundation, their interactions always professional, but underlaid with something deeper, a shared understanding of betrayal and survival. She chose her outfit carefully: charcoal grey slacks, a soft blue sweater, low heels, professional but comfortable, armor and authenticity balanced. Her hair, once again healthy and shining, she left loose around her shoulders. The woman in the mirror looked composed, capable, worlds away from the broken bride of 6 months ago. The Foundation's offices were quiet at this hour, most employees gone home. Security nodded her through with familiar respect. She'd become a regular presence here, helping with administrative tasks and occasionally speaking with other survivors. The work had become a lifeline, a way to transform her pain into purpose. Liam's office door was open, warm light spilling into the hallway. He stood at the window, his tall frame silhouetted against the snowy twilight. At her soft knock, he turned, and something in his expression made her heart skip. "Serenity," he greeted warmly. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit." She chose one of the comfortable chairs facing his desk, noting how he waited for her to settle before taking his own seat, always careful, always respectful of her space and boundaries. The wall of success photographs watched over them, silent witnesses to countless stories of restoration. 6 months, he said quietly, opening a drawer and withdrawing a thick folder. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, sometimes like a lifetime ago. Serenity nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. The night everything changed. Yes. He placed the folder on his desk, his hands resting lightly on its surface. "Do you remember what I promised you that night?" "That I was free," she replied softly. "That my life was my own." "Exactly." He opened the folder, revealing documents, cards, and what appeared to be bank statements. "And today, I'm here to fulfill that promise completely." With careful movements, he began laying out items before her. First, this. A bank card and statements showing an account in her name with a balance that made her gasp. "Compensation for everything you've endured, plus enough to start fresh anywhere you choose." "Liam, I can't." He held up a hand, gentle but firm. "You can, and you will. Consider it reparation, if you prefer, our investment in your future. The choice of how to use it, like all choices from now on, is entirely yours." Next came a stack of documents. "Your marriage to Ronan has been legally annulled. Our legal team ensured all records were sealed to protect your privacy. These papers restore your maiden name and establish a new identity if you choose to use it." Serenity's hands trembled as she touched the documents. A new identity, complete with background history, credentials, and references. If you want to start over somewhere new, become someone else entirely, that option is yours. He paused, his voice softening. "Though I hope you won't feel the need to hide who you are. Your strength as Serenity Williams has inspired many here." More items appeared from the folder. Job recommendations for any field you might want to pursue. Connections with survivor support networks in every major city. Property listings in various locations if you want to purchase a home. Everything you need to build whatever future you envision. The scope of his preparation stunned her. Each document, each option, represented freedom, real, tangible freedom to choose her own path. "Why now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's expression held both pride and something deeper, more complex. "Because you're ready. These past months, I've watched you transform from survivor to thriver. You've turned your pain into purpose, your trauma into strength. You don't need our protection anymore, though you'll always have it if you want it." Rising from his desk, he moved to the wall of photographs. Each woman here reached this moment differently. Some chose to disappear into new lives, others stayed to help the cause. Many found paths I never could have predicted. The only common thread is that they all chose freely. Serenity stood as well, drawn to stand beside him. Her eyes found familiar faces, women she'd met through her work at the foundation, survivors who'd become friends and inspirations. "And if I choose to stay, to continue the work here, then you'll do so as a free agent, not someone who feels obligated by circumstance." He turned to face her, his eyes intense with sincerity. That's why I'm doing this now, giving you every option. Whatever you choose, staying, leaving, something in between, I need you to know it's truly your choice. Snow fell steadily outside the windows now, muffling the city sounds and creating a cocoon of quiet around them. In that peaceful silence, Serenity felt the weight of the moment, the magnitude of what he was offering. Not just resources and options, but complete autonomy over her life's direction. Moving back to his desk, she began examining the documents more carefully. Each page represented a possible future, a path she could choose. The bank balance was staggering, enough to start any kind of life she could imagine. "Tell me something," she said finally, looking up to find him watching her with that careful distance he always maintained. "That night, in the hotel, you paid $50,000 to save me. This," she gestured at the bank statements, "this is considerably more." "The 50,000 was what was needed to get you out safely," he explained. "This is what you deserve to move forward. The foundation maintains a fund specifically for helping survivors rebuild their lives." "And the new identity option, is that standard procedure?" A shadow crossed his face. "Some women need it. Their traffickers don't give up easily, or their shame is too great to bear under their own names. We've learned to be prepared for every possibility." Serenity nodded slowly, understanding the layers of thought and care that had gone into these preparations. "And my work here? The projects I've been involved with? Can continue if you wish, but now with a proper salary and benefits." He smiled slightly. "You've become quite valuable to the Foundation, but I won't take advantage of that unless you freely choose to stay." The snow was falling faster now, the city lights creating halos in the white swirl beyond the windows. Serenity felt oddly peaceful as she considered her options. 6 months ago, she'd been a broken bride, betrayed and sold by the man who'd vowed to love her. Now she stood in an office filled with stories of redemption, being offered every possible key to every possible door. "Would you tell me something honestly?" she asked, meeting his gaze directly. "Always. Do you still believe Emma is alive?" Pain flickered in his eyes, but he didn't look away. "Yes. Until I have proof otherwise, I have to believe she's out there somewhere. It's what drives me to keep building this network, expanding our reach. And if I stayed," she said carefully, "would it be because I remind you of her?" "No." His response was immediate and firm. "You're not a replacement for Emma or a symbol of redemption. You're Serenity Williams, a woman of remarkable strength who's earned every opportunity in that folder through your own resilience and determination." She believed him. More than that, she understood him, understood how saving others helped him cope with being unable to save his sister, but also how he fought to see each woman as an individual, not just a cause. Moving to the windows, Serenity watched the snow transform Atlanta into a winter wonderland. 6 months ago, she'd stood at similar windows in her penthouse sanctuary, feeling trapped despite the luxurious surroundings. Now, being offered every possible avenue of escape, she felt something unexpected, the desire to stay. "The Foundation's work," she said slowly. "It's making a real difference, isn't it? Not just saving women like me, but preventing others from experiencing what we did?" "Yes." Liam's voice carried quiet pride. "Every woman we save, every trafficker we stop, every pattern we identify, it all helps protect others." Turning back to his desk, Serenity began sorting the documents into piles. Bank information in one stack, legal papers in another, new identity options in a third. When she finished, she faced him with clear eyes and steady voice. "I want to stay," she declared, "not out of obligation or fear or lack of options, but because this work matters, because I can make a difference here." Relief and joy flickered across his face before he schooled his expression. "Are you sure?" You don't have to decide immediately. Take the documents, review all your options. I'm sure. She smiled, feeling truly confident for the first time in months. But I'll take the resources you're offering, use them to build a real life here, my own apartment, my own car, my own future. And I want a real position at the foundation where I can use my experience to help others. Done, he agreed immediately. Whatever role you want, whatever support you need. And Liam? She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. Thank you. Not just for saving me that night, but for showing me what real respect looks like, for giving me time to heal, space to grow, and now, the freedom to choose. Something shifted in his eyes then, a softening, a hope quickly hidden. You've done the hard work, Serenity. I just provided the opportunity. As they began discussing details of her future role at the foundation, the snow continued to fall outside, blanketing the city in pristine white. Like that snow covering Atlanta's scars and shadows, time and truth had helped heal Serenity's wounds. Not completely, perhaps never completely, but enough to choose her path forward with clarity and purpose. She was no longer the woman who had entered a bridal suite 6 months ago, no longer defined by what had been done to her. She was Serenity Williams, survivor turned advocate, choosing freely to be part of something larger than herself. And in that choice lay the truest freedom of all. Chapter 8. Healing Hearts. Spring arrived in Atlanta with an explosion of dogwood blossoms and fresh beginnings. Serenity's new apartment, a sun-filled space in a historic building near the Foundation's offices, had slowly transformed from an empty shell into a true home. Each piece of furniture, each decorative touch, had been carefully chosen by her, acts of reclaiming control over her environment that Dr. Chen said were vital to her healing process. This morning, she stood in her kitchen, sipping coffee and reviewing files for the day ahead. Her position as Survivor Outreach Coordinator had evolved naturally from her volunteer work, allowing her to use her teaching background in unexpected ways. Today's agenda included a meeting that both excited and terrified her, presenting a new training program for identifying potential trafficking victims in schools. The idea had come to her during a late-night strategy session with Liam. They'd been reviewing cases, looking for patterns, when she'd noticed how many victims had shown warning signs during their school years. Her perspective as both an educator and a survivor had sparked an idea that quickly grew into a full program. As she gathered her materials, Serenity caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman who gazed back wore a professional navy dress, subtle makeup, and an air of quiet confidence. Her hair, once again healthy and glossy, was swept back in a sleek ponytail, but it was her eyes that showed the most change, clear, focused, and alive with purpose. The Foundation's offices were already bustling when she arrived. Her team of survivor advocates, all women who had their own stories of escape and redemption, were preparing for a day of outreach work. They greeted her with warm smiles and knowing looks. They'd all been where she was, finding healing through helping others. "Ready for the big presentation?" Bella asked, appearing at her office door with 2 cups of coffee from their favorite cafe. Serenity accepted the coffee gratefully. "As ready as I'll ever be. Is the board all confirmed?" "Full attendance," Bella confirmed. "This program has generated a lot of interest. Training teachers to recognize trafficking indicators could be a game changer." The morning passed in a blur of preparation. Serenity refined her presentation, practiced her talking points, and tried to quiet the butterflies in her stomach. This wasn't just another Foundation initiative. It was her vision, her chance to prevent others from experiencing what she had. At 11, she made her way to the boardroom. The space was impressive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of downtown Atlanta. Board members were already seated around the massive table, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. Liam sat at the head of the table, his presence both commanding and supportive. Over the past months, their working relationship had evolved into something unique, a partnership based on mutual respect and shared purpose. He gave her a slight nod as she set up her presentation, his quiet confidence in her abilities helping steady her nerves. "Good morning," she began, her voice stronger than she expected. "Thank you all for being here. Today, I want to present a program that could fundamentally change how we approach trafficking prevention." For the next hour, Serenity laid out her vision. She explained how teachers, with proper training, could identify students at risk, how school counselors could be equipped to intervene, how the Foundation's resources could be leveraged to create a safety net for vulnerable youth. "The patterns we see in adult victims," she explained, bringing up a series of charts, "often begin much earlier. Isolation from friends and family, sudden changes in behavior or appearance, unexplained gifts or money. These are signs teachers are already trained to notice for other issues. We just need to help them connect them to potential trafficking situations." The board members leaned forward, engaged by her presentation. Even the most skeptical faces had softened as she shared statistics, case studies, and proposed solutions. But it was when she shared her own story, carefully edited but powerful, that the room grew completely still. "I was a teacher," she said softly, "trained to protect children, to notice signs of trouble. Yet I missed those same signs in my own life. If someone had helped me recognize the pattern Ronan was following—" She paused, gathering strength. "We can't change the past, but we can use our experiences to protect others." When she finished speaking, the silence in the room was profound. Then, slowly, one board member began to applaud. Others joined in, and suddenly the room was filled with enthusiasm and support. Questions followed, practical concerns about implementation, funding, and measurement of success. Serenity answered each one with confidence, born of thorough preparation and passionate belief in her project. Throughout it all, she was aware of Liam watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need," the board chair announced finally. "Ms. Williams, you have our full support. Work with Mr. Livingston to establish the budget and timeline." As the board members filed out, offering congratulations and suggestions, Serenity felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This wasn't just a professional victory, it was a personal transformation. She had taken her trauma and turned it into a tool for prevention, her pain into a pathway for protection. "That was impressive," Liam said quietly, approaching after the room had cleared. "You've thought of everything." "Not everything," she admitted, "but enough to start. This could really make a difference, Liam. If we can catch these situations early, we can prevent others from experiencing what you did." He completed her thought, understanding in his eyes. "What we both did." The mention of Emma, though indirect, hung in the air between them. These moments happened sometimes, quiet acknowledgements of the parallel tragedies that had brought them to this point. But lately, they felt less like wounds and more like bridges. "Have dinner with me," Liam said suddenly, "to celebrate your success today." Serenity felt her heart skip. They'd shared countless working meals, late-night strategy sessions fueled by takeout and determination. But this felt different, personal. She hesitated, old fears flickering at the edges of her mind. "Just dinner," he assured her quickly. "As colleagues. Friends." She looked at him then, really looked at him. Saw not just the powerful CEO or the wounded brother, but the man who had given her space to heal, freedom to choose, and now opportunity to make a difference. The man who had never pushed, never presumed, never tried to be anything other than what he was. "Yes," she said softly, "I'd like that." They chose a quiet restaurant in Midtown, far from the fancy establishments Ronan had favored. The atmosphere was warm and unpretentious, The food excellent, but not showy. Over plates of perfectly prepared pasta, they talked about everything and nothing. The foundation's work, her training program, books they'd read, places they'd seen. "Tell me about Emma," Serenity said as they lingered over dessert. "Not about losing her, about who she was." Pain flickered across Liam's face, but it was softer now, tempered by time and purpose. She was light, pure light. Could walk into a room and make everyone smile. Loved dance with her whole being, not just the movement, but the way it could tell stories, express emotions. You were close. Very. After our parents died, I practically raised her. Maybe that's why I didn't see. He trailed off, then rallied. She would have loved you, you know. Your strength, your determination to help others. Do you still look for her? Every day. He met her eyes steadily. Our network gets bigger, stronger, reaches further. Someday. Serenity reached across the table and took his hand. It was the first time she'd initiated physical contact between them, and she felt him start slightly before his fingers curled around hers. "Thank you," she said softly, "for telling me about her, for trusting me with her memory." "Thank you for asking," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. "Most people avoid mentioning her, afraid it will upset me, but remembering the good parts, it helps." They sat in comfortable silence, hands still linked across the table. Outside, Atlanta's nightlife was coming alive, but in their quiet corner time seemed to slow down. "I should tell you something," Serenity said finally. "About the ring." Liam looked confused. "Ring? My wedding ring, the night everything changed. I threw it behind the bathtub in the hotel suite, left it there when I moved to the penthouse." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Do you want me to have someone retrieve it?" "No," she smiled slightly. "I like knowing it's there, like a message in a bottle for the next woman who might need saving. Proof that sometimes leaving everything behind is the first step to finding yourself." His thumb traced patterns on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. "You're remarkable, you know that. Most people would be destroyed by what you've been through. Instead, you've turned it into a mission to help others." "I had help," she reminded him. "You, Bella, the foundation. You showed me there was a path forward through the darkness. You chose to walk it," he countered. "That was all you." As they left the restaurant, the spring night was soft with promise. Cherry blossoms drifted on the breeze like nature's confetti, celebrating new beginnings. At her building, Liam walked her to the door, maintaining the careful distance he always kept between them. "Thank you for dinner," she said, turning to face him, "for celebrating with me, for everything. Thank you for trusting me enough to say yes." Their eyes met in the gentle glow of the porch light, and something shifted in the air between them. The careful distance they'd maintained all these months felt different now, less like a barrier and more like a bridge waiting to be crossed. "Good night, Serenity," he said softly, stepping back. "Good night, Liam." As she walked upstairs to her apartment, Serenity felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with wine or celebration. Something was changing between them, evolving from the ashes of their shared traumas into something unexpected and beautiful. Later, standing at her bedroom window, she watched the city lights twinkle against the velvet sky. Below, dogwood petals danced on the breeze, nature's reminder that after every winter comes spring, after every darkness comes dawn. She thought of her presentation, of the lives her program might save, thought of Emma dancing somewhere unknown but never forgotten, thought of Liam carrying both pain and purpose with equal grace. And for the first time in a very long time, Serenity Williams felt her heart open to possibilities she'd thought forever lost. Not just survival, not just purpose, but perhaps, when the time was right, love itself might bloom again from the fertile soil of healing hearts. Chapter 9. Operation Justice. The idea came to Serenity during a routine monitoring session in the Foundation's command center. She was reviewing surveillance footage of Ronan's latest activities when a pattern caught her eye. Despite the Foundation's intervention in his operations, he hadn't stopped his predatory behavior. He'd simply become more careful, more selective in his targets. "Look at this," she said to Bella, who was working nearby. On the screen, Ronan was chatting with a young woman at his favorite upscale bar. His body language was eerily familiar, the same careful attention, the same calculated charm he'd once used on her. "He's hunting again," Bella observed grimly. "But he's gotten smarter. More background checks, longer grooming period." "Because he knows we're watching," Serenity finished. Something was forming in her mind, a dangerous idea, but one that wouldn't let go. "What if we used that against him?" Bella looked at her sharply. "What are you thinking?" "He's careful now, but he's also greedy. What if we presented him with a target too perfect to resist, someone who fits his preferred profile, but with an extra incentive, like significant wealth?" "A trap," Bella said slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "But it would have to be perfect. He's suspicious of everyone now." "Then we'll make it perfect." Serenity's voice held steel beneath its softness. "We have everything we need. Detailed records of his patterns, understanding of his psychology, and most importantly, someone he's never seen before." "Who?" Serenity pulled up another file on her screen. "Personnel records for the Foundation's newest team member, Trinity Chase. Former FBI undercover operative, now our head of covert operations. She's exactly his type, successful, sophisticated, and most importantly, unknown to his network." The plan began to take shape over the next few days. Serenity threw herself into the preparation, with an intensity that both impressed and concerned her colleagues. Late one evening, as she pored over psychological profiles and surveillance reports, Liam found her still at her desk. "You need to rest," he said gently, setting a cup of her favorite tea beside her. "I'm fine," she replied automatically, then caught his worried expression. "Really, Liam, this is important." He pulled up a chair, close, but not too close, always mindful of her space. "Talk to me. What's really driving this?" Serenity was quiet for a long moment, gathering her thoughts. "When you saved me that night, you didn't just save one person. You saved every woman Ronan might have targeted after me, but he's still out there, still hunting. Every woman he approaches now, that's on me if I don't stop him." "No," Liam said firmly. "Their fate is not your responsibility. You're a survivor, not a savior. Maybe I need to be both." She met his eyes steadily. "You understand that better than anyone. Isn't that why you built all this? To be both survivor and savior?" Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, respect, and something deeper she wasn't quite ready to name. "Just be careful. Don't let the mission consume you. I've been down that road." The next morning, Serenity presented her fully formed plan to the Foundation's leadership team. Trinity Chase, cool and professional in a sleek black suit, stood beside her as she outlined the operation. "Ronan has a type," Serenity explained, displaying psychological profiles on the screen. "Successful women with subtle vulnerabilities he can exploit. Trinity will pose as a wealthy heiress recently relocated to Atlanta. Her background story includes elements we know appeal to him: family money, social isolation, a desire for connection." "The trick," Trinity added, her voice carrying the quiet authority of experience, "is to make him think he's the hunter when really he's the prey. Every move will appear to be his idea, but we'll be orchestrating everything from behind the scenes." The plan was comprehensive. They would arrange accidental meetings at Ronan's preferred locations. Trinity would play hard to get at first, piquing his predatory instincts. Meanwhile, the Foundation's tech team would create an elaborate digital footprint supporting her wealthy heiress identity. "What about security?" Liam asked, his concern evident. "If anything goes wrong." "We'll have teams in place at every meeting," Serenity assured him. "Plus, Trinity is more than capable of handling herself, but Ronan won't risk anything physical. That's not his style. He'll try to charm her, rush her into marriage, just like he did with me and the others." "And when he makes his move to sell," Bella asked, "that's when we'll have him." Trinity's smile was sharp as a blade. "We'll let him think he's arranging a sale, but instead of a buyer, he'll find federal agents. We've already coordinated with the FBI's trafficking task force. They're ready to move as soon as we give the signal." The operation launched on a warm summer evening. Trinity, stunning in a red dress carefully chosen to catch attention without seeming to try, positioned herself at the bar of the St. Regis. Right on schedule, Ronan appeared, drawn by carefully planted information about a wealthy new arrival in his hunting grounds. Serenity watched through surveillance feeds from the command center, her heart pounding as she saw her ex-husband approach Trinity. Though months had passed, though she was stronger now, the sight of him still sent ice through her veins. Liam's hand found hers under the desk, offering silent support. She gripped it tightly, drawing strength from his steady presence as she listened to the conversation through Trinity's hidden microphone. "I couldn't help but notice you seem new here," Ronan said, sliding onto the bar stool next to Trinity. His voice was exactly as Serenity remembered, smooth as aged whiskey, hiding poison beneath its surface. Trinity played her part perfectly, maintaining just the right balance of interest and reserve. "Just moved from Boston," she replied, letting a carefully calculated hint of loneliness color her tone. "Still finding my feet in Atlanta." Over the next few weeks, the operation proceeded exactly as planned. Ronan, true to form, began his careful courtship. Every chance meeting, every seemingly spontaneous encounter was meticulously orchestrated by the Foundation's team. Trinity played her role flawlessly, allowing him to think he was skillfully breaking down her defenses. Serenity threw herself into coordinating the operation, working long hours in the command center. If others noticed how she flinched every time Ronan appeared on screen, they didn't mention it. Only Liam seemed to understand the toll it was taking on her. "You don't have to watch," he told her one evening, finding her staring at surveillance footage of Ronan and Trinity at dinner. "The team can handle this." "Yes, I do," she replied softly. "I need to see it through, need to know he can't hurt anyone else." Liam studied her face for a long moment. "You're not that frightened bride anymore, Serenity. You're stronger now, wiser." "Because of you," she said, meeting his eyes, "because you showed me there was another way." Something shifted between them in that moment, a deepening of understanding, a recognition of how far they'd both come from their original roles of savior and saved. But before either could speak further, Trinity's voice came through the comm system. "He's making his move," she reported quietly. "Just suggested a weekend trip to the coast, says he has a friend with a private yacht." This was the critical phase they'd been waiting for. In their experience, Ronan often used similar trips to isolate his victims before completing his sales. Everything hinged on the next few days. The Foundation's team sprang into action, preparing for every contingency. They tracked Ronan's communications, monitoring as he reached out to his network of buyers. Just as they'd hoped, the prospect of selling an heiress with her connections to substantial wealth had him salivating. "He's contacted Matthew's old network," Marcus reported, monitoring the encrypted communications, asking for double his usual price due to the quality of merchandise and potential for future exploitation of her wealth. Serenity felt bile rise in her throat at hearing another woman discussed like property, even knowing it was part of their plan. Liam's hand found hers again, grounding her in the present. "Target is getting suspicious," Trinity's voice came through, barely a whisper. "He's asking more questions about my background. We need to move soon." The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. The Foundation's tech team worked overtime, strengthening Trinity's cover story to withstand deeper scrutiny. FBI teams moved into position, preparing for the final phase of the operation. The trap was set at another luxury hotel, poetic justice that wasn't lost on anyone involved. Trinity, playing her part perfectly, agreed to meet Ronan for drinks before their supposed coastal trip. The hotel's security cameras showed him arriving early, meeting with a man they recognized as one of his regular buyers. "All teams in position," came the report through their comms, waiting for the signal. Serenity watched the screens intently as Trinity entered the hotel bar, beautiful and poised in an expensive blue dress. Ronan greeted her with his practiced charm, but there was an edge to his movements now, the predator preparing to strike. "Here we go," Trinity murmured into her hidden mic as Ronan suggested they move their drinks to a private suite. Moving to position Alpha. Everything happened quickly after that. As soon as they entered the suite, where Ronan's buyer waited, FBI agents emerged from their hiding places. The look of shock on Ronan's face as he realized his carefully laid trap had become his own undoing was something Serenity would remember forever. "Ronan Pierce," the lead agent announced, "you're under arrest for human trafficking, conspiracy to commit trafficking, and multiple other federal charges." In the command center, the team erupted in cheers. Months of careful planning had paid off perfectly, but Serenity remained quiet, watching as the man who had once promised to love her was led away in handcuffs. "Are you okay?" Liam asked softly. She turned to him, surprised to find tears on her cheeks but steel in her spine. "Yes," she replied, and meant it. "For the first time since that night, I really am." As the adrenaline of the operation faded, Serenity felt something settle inside her, not closure exactly, but a sense of completion. Ronan's arrest wouldn't erase what he'd done to her or his other victims, but it would ensure he couldn't hurt anyone else. Later that night, as the team celebrated their success, Serenity stood at the window of the command center, watching the city lights twinkle below. Liam joined her, offering a glass of champagne. "To justice," he said quietly. "To survival," she countered, clinking her glass against his, "and to turning survival into strength." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Serenity saw their shared journey reflected back at her, from darkness to light, from trauma to triumph, from separate paths of pain to a united mission of hope. Sometimes she was learning. The best revenge wasn't just surviving. It was thriving, growing stronger, and using that strength to protect others. As she looked at Liam, she saw not just the man who had saved her, but the partner who had helped her save herself. And in that realization lay the seeds of something new, something that felt remarkably like love. Chapter 10. Aftermath. The federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta stood as a monument to justice, its classical architecture a stark contrast to the modern skyline surrounding it. 2 months after Ronan's arrest, Serenity walked up its imposing steps, her heels clicking against the marble. The morning sun cast long shadows through the columns, but for once she wasn't afraid of shadows anymore. Liam waited at the top of the steps, his tall figure cutting a distinguished silhouette in his charcoal suit. Since the night of the arrest, their relationship had shifted subtly. No longer just colleagues or friends, but something deeper neither had yet dared to name. "Ready?" he asked simply as she reached him. Serenity smoothed her navy blazer, a gesture more about gathering courage than appearance. "Ready." Inside, the courthouse hummed with activity. Other survivors had come forward after Ronan's arrest, each with their own story of manipulation and betrayal. Today's hearing would determine if he accepted the plea deal prosecutors had offered, 25 years in federal prison, in exchange for information about his trafficking network. The courtroom was already crowded when they entered. Bella sat in the front row with Trinity, both offering encouraging smiles as Serenity took her seat. Behind them, other members of the Foundation's team filled several rows, a silent army of support. When Ronan was led in, handcuffed and wearing prison orange, Serenity felt Liam tense beside her, but she remained calm, studying the man who had nearly destroyed her life. He looked smaller somehow, his carefully cultivated charm stripped away to reveal the predator beneath. The proceedings moved quickly. Ronan's expensive lawyer spoke in measured tones about his client's cooperation and remorse. Serenity had to bite back a bitter laugh. His only remorse was getting caught. But when the prosecutor stood to present the evidence they'd gathered, Serenity sat straighter. This was why she was here. Each photograph, each document, each testimony built a devastating case, not just against Ronan, but against the entire trafficking network he'd served. "Your Honor," the prosecutor said, "Mr. Pierce's activities were part of a sophisticated international operation. His cooperation has already led to multiple arrests across 3 continents. We believe—" A commotion at the back of the courtroom interrupted her. Serenity turned to see a young woman being escorted in by federal agents. She was thin, almost fragile-looking, with long, dark hair and haunted eyes that seemed to hold decades of pain. Beside her, Liam went completely still. His hand found hers, gripping it with an intensity that almost hurt. "Emma," he whispered, his voice breaking on the name. Serenity's heart stopped. This was Emma Livingston, the lost sister, the catalyst for everything the Foundation had become. She'd been found in a raid on one of the trafficking networks Ronan had exposed, half a world away in Dubai. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Ronan's face went ash-grey as he recognized the implications of this new witness. His lawyer quickly requested a recess, but the judge denied it. Emma's testimony was delivered in a voice that gained strength with each word. She described how her supposed fiancé had sold her into a network of wealthy collectors who treated women like living art pieces, how she'd been moved from country to country, her dance training perverted into private performances for men who saw her as property. "And yes," she said finally, fixing Ronan with a steady gaze, "I recognize the defendant. He visited the Dubai compound 3 times over the years, delivering new acquisitions to our handler." The evidence was damning. Ronan's lawyer immediately requested a brief consultation with his client. When they resumed, Ronan's arrogance had crumbled completely. "My client wishes to change his plea to guilty on all counts," the lawyer announced, "and he's prepared to provide complete details about all his activities and contacts within the trafficking network." The rest of the hearing passed in a blur. Serenity was aware of Liam beside her, trembling slightly as he watched his sister, alive, found, returned. She squeezed his hand, offering the same support he'd given her so many times. When court adjourned, Emma was immediately surrounded by federal agents and family members who had rushed to the courthouse upon hearing of her appearance. But her eyes sought out her brother, and the reunion that followed brought tears to everyone's eyes. Serenity stepped back, giving them space for their private moment. She found herself next to Trinity, who was watching the scene with professional satisfaction. "The raid in Dubai," Trinity said quietly. "It wasn't just luck. When Ronan started talking, I recognized some details that matched cold cases I'd worked at the FBI, put together a task force, and—" She shrugged modestly. "Thank you," Serenity whispered, understanding the magnitude of what Trinity had accomplished. Not just justice for the victims, but healing for the man who had saved them all. The aftermath of the hearing stretched into evening. Statements were given to the press, paperwork was filed, and plans were made for Emma's protection and rehabilitation. Through it all, Serenity observed the subtle ways Liam was changing, as if a weight he'd carried for 7 years was finally lifting. Later, at the Foundation's offices, the team gathered for an impromptu celebration. Emma, though clearly exhausted, insisted on seeing where her brother had built his mission of hope. "All of this," she said, looking around the command center with wonder, "because you were looking for me." "It started that way," Liam admitted, "but it became something more. Every woman we saved, it was like saving a piece of you." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the wall of success photos. "And now you've saved me too." "Actually," Liam said, drawing Serenity forward, "we all saved each other." The evening turned into a catharsis of shared stories. Emma spoke of her years in captivity, of never losing hope that her brother would find her. Others shared their own journeys from victim to survivor to advocate. Through it all, Serenity felt a sense of completion, as if the circle that had begun with her own rescue was finally closing. As the gathering wound down, she found herself on the office balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. Liam joined her, his presence as familiar now as her own heartbeat. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything." "I should be thanking you," she replied. "You saved my life that night." "And you helped save my sister." He turned to face her fully. "But it's more than that. You showed me that saving others wasn't just about Emma anymore. It was about creating real change, real hope." The air between them felt charged with possibility. Serenity looked up at him, this man who had transformed his pain into purpose, who had saved her without trying to possess her, who had shown her what real strength looked like. "Liam," she began, but he gently pressed a finger to her lips. "Wait," he said. "Before you say anything else, I need you to know something. These past months, watching you heal, watching you help others heal, I've fallen in love with you, not because you needed saving, but because of who you've become. Strong, compassionate, unstoppable." Serenity felt tears well in her eyes, but they were tears of joy rather than pain. "I love you too," she whispered. "Not because you saved me, but because you showed me how to save myself." Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, acknowledgement of their shared histories and careful respect for each other's boundaries. But it held promise, too, the possibility of a love built on understanding rather than deception, strength rather than vulnerability. Inside, they could hear the continued celebrations, Emma's laugh mixing with others in a symphony of healing. The Foundation's work would continue, stronger now with her insights into the trafficking networks. Ronan's information would lead to more raids, more rescues, more stories of redemption. But here on the balcony, Serenity and Liam shared a moment that belonged just to them. Two broken people who had helped each other become whole again. Two survivors who had turned their pain into purpose. Two hearts that had found love in the aftermath of darkness. The city sparkled below them, a tapestry of lights and shadows. But Serenity wasn't afraid of shadows anymore. She had learned that sometimes the darkest moments led to the brightest dawns, that strength could be forged in suffering, and that love could bloom in the most unexpected places. As Liam drew her close for another kiss, Serenity knew their story was far from over. There would be more battles to fight, more lives to save, more healing to be done. But they would face it all together, not as savior and saved, but as equal partners in a mission of hope. And in that moment, under the vast Atlanta sky, two healing hearts beat as one, promising a future brighter than either had dared to dream. Chapter 11. Love's Triumph. The Foundation's annual gala transformed the Atlanta History Center's grand ballroom into a celebration of hope and healing. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over elegant table settings, while photographs from successful rescues lined the walls, testament to lives reclaimed from darkness. 3 months had passed since Emma's return and Ronan's conviction, months that had changed everything. Serenity stood before the full-length mirror in her private dressing room, hardly recognizing herself. The midnight blue gown she wore had been specially designed for the evening, its flowing lines suggesting both strength and grace. Tiny crystals caught the light with every movement, like stars scattered across an evening sky. "You look beautiful," Bella said softly, entering with a small velvet box. "This just arrived from Liam." Inside the box, nestled on black silk, lay a delicate necklace of sapphires and diamonds. The note accompanying it read simply, "To match your eyes, L." But it was the smaller card beneath that brought tears to Serenity's eyes. Not a gift of possession, but a celebration of freedom. As Bella helped her fasten the necklace, Serenity reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. A year ago, she had been a different woman, hopeful, naive, walking unknowingly into a trap disguised as love. Now she stood stronger, wiser, her heart open to a love built on truth rather than deception. "He's waiting in the garden," Bella said with a knowing smile. "Take a moment before the chaos begins." The History Center's gardens were a masterpiece of southern landscaping, magnolia trees and climbing roses, creating natural archways over winding paths. Liam stood beneath one such arch, his classic black tuxedo making him look like something from a fairy tale, albeit one where the prince was as wounded as the princess he'd saved. He turned at the sound of her approach, and the look in his eyes made her heart skip. "Serenity," he breathed, taking in her appearance. "You're stunning." "The necklace is beautiful," she said softly, touching the gems at her throat. "But you didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. "Not to mark you as mine, but to celebrate who you are, who you've become." Their relationship had evolved carefully over the past months, both acutely aware of their history and the delicacy of rebuilding trust after trauma. Every step forward had been discussed, every boundary respected. Love had grown, not from desperate need or calculated manipulation, but from mutual understanding and shared purpose. "There's something I want to show you," Liam said, offering his arm. He led her deeper into the gardens, where a secluded pavilion had been transformed into a private sanctuary. Soft lights twinkled in the growing dusk, and the air was heavy with the scent of jasmine. But what caught Serenity's attention was the display set up on an elegant table, photographs, documents, and what appeared to be architectural plans. "What is this?" she asked, moving closer. "The Foundation's next phase," Liam explained, his voice rich with excitement. "Thanks to Ronan's conviction and the information he provided, we've received unprecedented support. Donations, government grants, corporate partnerships, everything we need to expand our mission." He spread out the architectural plans, showing her a complex of buildings surrounded by gardens. "This will be the first of its kind. A complete rehabilitation center for trafficking survivors. Medical care, counseling, job training, legal support, everything under one roof. And look at this." He pointed to a section of the plans labeled Education Center. "This is your vision, brought to life. A full training facility for your prevention program, capable of reaching educators across the country." Serenity's vision blurred with tears as she studied the plans. The program she'd developed had already shown promising results in pilot schools. But this could change everything. "There's more," Liam continued softly. He pulled out a document bearing the Foundation's letterhead. "The board has unanimously voted to name it the Serenity Williams Center for Hope and Healing." "Liam," she whispered, overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll help me build it," he replied. Not just the center, but everything that comes after. Say you'll be my partner in all of it. The foundation, the mission, life itself. As his words registered, Serenity's heart began to race. Liam moved to stand before her, taking both her hands in his. "I had a whole speech planned," he said with a soft laugh, "about how you've transformed from victim to victor, how you've helped me heal, even as you healed yourself, how watching you grow stronger has made me fall more in love with you every day. But standing here now, looking at you, all I can say is that I love you, Serenity Williams, not as someone I saved, but as the woman who helped save me from my own darkness." Dropping to one knee, he withdrew a small box from his pocket. The ring inside was nothing like the ostentatious diamond Ronan had used to mark his claim. Instead, it was a delicate band of white gold, set with a single perfect sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, like a star cradled in constellation. "This isn't about possession or control," Liam said softly. "It's about partnership, about choosing to walk the same path together. Will you marry me, Serenity? Not because I saved you once, but because we save each other every day." Tears flowed freely down Serenity's cheeks, but her voice was strong and clear as she answered, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The ring slipped onto her finger as if it had always belonged there. When Liam rose to kiss her, it felt like coming home, not to a place, but to a truth she'd always known in her heart. Their moment of private joy was interrupted by soft applause. They turned to find Emma standing at the pavilion's entrance, her eyes bright with happy tears. In the month since her rescue, she had blossomed back into herself, her dancer's grace returning as she healed. "I couldn't wait any longer," she said, hurrying forward to embrace them both. "The guests are arriving, but I had to know." More figures emerged from the garden paths: Bella, Trinity, other members of the Foundation family who had supported their journey. Each face reflected joy and celebration, understanding the magnitude of this moment. "Shall we tell them now?" Liam asked softly, not just about the engagement, but about the future center that would transform their mission. Serenity nodded, squeezing his hand. Together they walked back toward the ballroom, where hundreds of supporters waited to hear about the Foundation's future. But first, she pulled him to a stop in the garden. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For showing me that real love isn't about being saved. It's about growing stronger together." His kiss was gentle but full of promise. Above them, the first stars appeared in the deepening twilight, witnesses to a love story unlike any other, one forged in darkness but blooming in light, built not on rescue but on mutual respect and shared purpose. As they entered the ballroom to share their news, Serenity felt the sapphire ring on her finger, not as a mark of ownership, but as a symbol of choice, of strength, of love, freely given and received. The path ahead would hold challenges, but they would face them together, two healing hearts united in a mission of hope. The evening air carried the scent of magnolias and possibility, and somewhere in the garden, a nightingale began to sing, nature's blessing on a love that had transformed tragedy into triumph. Chapter 12. A New Beginning. Spring painted Atlanta in shades of renewal, dogwood blossoms and azaleas creating a natural cathedral in the gardens of the newly completed Serenity Williams Center for Hope and Healing. On this perfect May morning, the center's meditation garden had been transformed for a very special celebration. Not just a wedding, but a testament to love's power to heal and transform. Serenity stood in her private suite, surrounded by the subtle elegance she and Emma had chosen together. The wedding dress was everything her first hadn't been: simple, elegant, chosen for joy rather than show. Its flowing lines suggested freedom rather than constraint, and the delicate lace held no trace of the chains her first wedding gown had become. "Are you ready?" Emma asked softly, adjusting the simple veil. In the months since her rescue, the bond between them had grown deep, survivor to survivor, sister to sister-to-be. "More ready than I've ever been," Serenity replied, touching the sapphire engagement ring that had replaced darker memories. "How many have arrived?" "Just those we invited. Foundation family, survivors who've become leaders, key supporters. About 100 total." Emma's smile was knowing. "And security is triple-checked, though you don't need to worry about that today." The guest list had been carefully curated, each person present having played a role in their journey. No media, no publicity, just genuine celebration with those who understood the magnitude of this moment. Bella entered, radiant in her maid-of-honor dress of deep blue. "Everything's perfect outside. The first graduates of your education program insisted on doing the flowers. Wait until you see what they created." Serenity's heart swelled. The prevention program had exceeded all expectations, with teachers across 3 states now trained to recognize and intervene in potential trafficking situations. Lives were being saved before they could be shattered, hope planted before darkness could take root. A soft knock heralded Trinity's arrival. The former FBI agent, now the Foundation's head of security, wore her own bridesmaid dress with the same grace she brought to everything. "Final security sweep is complete, and," she smiled, "Liam is about to wear a hole in the garden path." The mention of her soon-to-be husband brought fresh joy to Serenity's heart. Their journey from rescuer and rescued to equal partners still amazed her. Every step of their relationship had been built on respect, understanding, and a shared mission larger than themselves. "Show me," Serenity requested, moving to the window that overlooked the garden. The sight below took her breath away. The meditation garden, designed as a place of healing for the center's residents, had been transformed into something magical. White flowers cascaded over trellises, creating natural archways. Survivors who had become floral designers had woven their own stories of hope into every arrangement. Dark roses opening to reveal light centers, broken branches supporting new blooms. Guests were being seated beneath a canopy of dogwood blossoms, their faces familiar and dear. Each person present represented a thread in the tapestry of healing and hope the Foundation had woven. Federal agents who had helped bring down trafficking networks sat beside survivors who now ran their own outreach programs. Teachers trained in the prevention program mingled with counselors and advocates, and there was Liam, handsome in his tuxedo but endearingly nervous as he paced near the flower-draped altar. His best man, Marcus, who had helped coordinate that first rescue so long ago, spoke quietly to him, probably trying to calm his nerves. "It's time," Bella said softly. The small bridal procession formed with the quiet efficiency that marked all Foundation operations. Emma and Trinity moved into position, each carrying bouquets that echoed the garden's theme of transformation. Bella gave Serenity one last hug before taking her place at the front. The music that began was not the traditional wedding march. Instead, it was a piece Emma had choreographed and would later dance at the reception, its melody speaking of journey from darkness to light. As Serenity took her first step into the garden, every face turned to watch not just a bride, but a symbol of love's triumph over trauma. Liam's expression as she approached the altar would stay with her forever. Not just love, though that shone bright in his eyes, but profound respect and partnership. This was not a man claiming a prize or possession. This was a partner celebrating chosen love. The ceremony itself was uniquely theirs, blending traditional elements with deeper meanings. The officiant, a survivor who had become a minister, spoke not just of love, but of transformation, of turning pain into purpose and darkness into light. "These 2 souls," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the garden, show us that true love isn't about rescue, it's about recognition. Recognition of strength, of purpose, of the divine light that survives in each of us, even through our darkest nights. Their vows, written together over weeks of reflection, spoke to their unique journey and shared mission. "Serenity," Liam began, his voice steady with certainty. "I promise not to save you, but to support you as you continue saving yourself and others. I promise to be partner in purpose, companion in healing, and co-creator of hope. I promise to love you not for your strength or your scars, but for the incredible woman who encompasses both." Tears flowed freely as Serenity spoke her own vows. "Liam, I promise to stand beside you in all battles, personal and public. I promise to help you carry the weight of memory while building new dreams. I promise to love you not as my rescuer, but as my equal, partner in purpose, companion in healing, co-creator of hope." The exchange of rings held special meaning, each band inscribed with words in their own handwriting: "Choose love" in his, "Choose strength" in hers. When joined together, the inscriptions formed a complete message. Choose love, choose strength. Their personal motto and mission statement in one. "By the power of love, healing and hope," the officiant proclaimed, "I now pronounce you partners in all things." Their first kiss as married couple was met with joyful applause. But it was the quiet tears on many faces that spoke most eloquently of the moment's meaning. Here was proof that love could bloom from ashes, that purpose could rise from pain. The celebration that followed was a perfect blend of elegance and meaning. Instead of a traditional reception line, guests were invited to add their own symbols of hope to a living art installation in the center's main hall. By evening's end, it would become a permanent reminder of love's power to transform. Emma's dance performance moved many to tears, her graceful movements telling the story of loss, survival, and rebirth that all present understood too well. But it was her smile as she danced that spoke loudest of healing's possibility. As twilight painted the sky in shades of promise, Serenity and Liam shared a quiet moment in the garden that had witnessed their vows. "Happy?" he asked softly, holding her close. "Beyond words," she replied. "Look at all we've built together. Not just this center, but hope itself." The center would officially open its doors the next week, offering comprehensive support for survivors while training the next generation of preventers and protectors. Already, its innovative programs were being studied as models for similar centers across the country. "And this is just the beginning," Liam said, his voice rich with promise. "Think of all the lives we'll touch, all the stories yet to be transformed." Above them, the first stars appeared. The same stars that had witnessed their first meeting in that hotel suite so long ago. But now they shone not on tragedy, but on triumph, not on endings, but on beginnings. As dance music drifted from the reception, Serenity laid her head on her husband's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. They had transformed victim and rescuer into partners, pain into purpose, darkness into light. And in that transformation lay the greatest love story of all. Not a fairy tale of rescue, but a true story of healing hearts choosing to beat as one. The end. Stop! Before you go any further, how will you find me in this huge world of fake channels? You might think they are Mr. Peter, but they are just using Al to clone my voice. Don't be fooled. Subscribe to my official channel and become part of this beautiful family. Let's stay together and keep the real stories alive.